You're listening to the Audacious Church podcast. This message was recorded live at our Chester campus. We know this is a great investment into your life, so tune in, listen up, and stay focused. For any more information, visit us online, audaciouschurch.com.
Brilliant. Well, if I've not met you before, my name's Emily, and I'm based in Manchester, but my home is also here with you guys in Chester, and it's always good to be back. And International Sunday. So look, I'm sponsoring my England gear today. Great Britain. This is what I've got, okay? In fact, it's not even mine. It's Mark's, okay? Don't tell him. Shh. He's not here, so it's all good. But it's good to see you guys. And we are in week 2 of a brand new series, which is exciting. And this term, really, as we head into the summer, and I was going to say the sunshine, but I don't know what's happened. I went through all weather seasons from Manchester to Chester, the rain, the sun, it's all going on. But this term, we're really, as a church, every year, we really focus in on us building good, strong, healthy relationships. That we want to build wide, we want to build deep, we want to build strong, we want to strengthen our existing friendships, we want to widen and create new ones. Who's up for getting some new friends? Want some new friends? It doesn't mean your friends you've got are not good. It's just like, yes, we can widen our net. We can invite people into our world. So really we're focusing in on that. And this series, we've called it It's Complicated. Because who knows, relationships are complicated at times. Yes, everyone? Yeah, it's not just me. They're complicated. And so we are taking the book, in fact, 1 and 2 Samuel, and we are looking through this because this is a treasure trove. Treasure trove. Yeah? You know what I mean, don't you? It's good stuff, okay? It's good stuff of all these different characters that we are looking at. Last week, Pastor Lee looked at Absalom. We're going to take in it. We've got Samuel and Saul and David, Jonathan, Meshibafeth. Right, so I'm going to need some help. Okay, you're going to have to help me preach this morning, guys, okay? Put my teeth in, and we're off. But basically, it's loads of different people. And we're going to learn about some great things that we can learn from these people, the good and the bad. And today we are looking at, we're starting kind of like the forward before even some of these guys are born. We're looking at Hannah. So today, in fact, this weekend marks 2 years since there was a relationship shift, kind of a relationship in our lives with our dear friends Hannah and Wayne went to a whole new level. Okay, so up to this point, we'd had years of different kind of, scenarios where we'd perhaps needed their help, they didn't needed our help. And, things like the water pipe burst in my kitchen. What do? I call Wayne. I'm like, Wayne, help me. Water everywhere. Various different situations. Our kids are sick and we need to go to hospital. I need a hospital buddy as a parent. I'm like, Hannah, I need help. So we'd had like these different scenarios in our, in our friendship. And then, but 2 years ago, everything changed and went to a new level when we as a family, we were mid-renovation and we got evicted from our house because it was deemed unsafe for us to live in, okay? There was no kitchen, barely a bathroom, you couldn't even call it that. And the roof was made of like plastic sheeting. And the storms came and the wind and the rain came in the house and the builders were like, enough is enough. You guys are evicted. You got to get out. It is not safe. So we're like, Hannah and Wayne, we're homeless. Can you help us? And they were like, I'm like, can we just move in, just for a few days while we sort this mess out? And so, yes, they were great friends. And they were like, sure, you can move in. And a few days kind of turned into 3 months. So me and Mark, our 3 kids, went in to live in their house with Hannah and Wayne and their 3 kids. Let's just say it was an experience, okay? And our relationship went to a whole new level, like next level relationship. And I reckon every one of us in here, we've had scenarios in our lives where we've needed to call people and say, help, come and help us out. I don't know, maybe your car's broken down and you need rescuing on the M56. Or maybe, you're sick and you needed help with your kids, getting them to school or bringing them to church. We've all had those scenarios. And the thing is, we all need those people in our lives that we can call and say, help, give us a hand. And I want to say that in those scenarios, acquaintances and surface level friendships just don't cut it. Okay? When life hits, when the curveballs of life come, when the storms are blowing in our lives, I can't ring up the cashier at Aldi that I see on a Monday and a Friday morning and say, hey, can you come and help me? It's kind of would be weird. It's not going to work. I can't get the lollipop man at the end of my road that I see on when I go for a run each day and be like, hey, buddy, can you help me? Life's kind of tricky right now. Surface level relationships in these scenarios don't work. And actually it says here in Ecclesiastes, it says chapter 4, verse 9, 10, 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. For if one falls, his companion can help lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another to help him up. See, the danger is that we live with relationships and friendships in our life that just remain surface level, that just remain acquaintances. But when the storms of life come, what happens then? Who are we going to call? But I want to say that I think the same can be true with our relationship with God. That we can have God at surface level, at kind of acquaintance level. And I want to say, church, that you are not designed, that you are not created to have a relationship with God that just remains at level 1. That just stays at surface level, where we hold God at arm's distance, where we kind of maybe just visit him for 90 minutes on a Sunday and then go home and forget about him. That is not the way God designed our relationships to be. Jesus did not die on a cross for us to have an acquaintance kind of relationship with him. He wants us to have a strong, a deep, and an intimate and close relationship with him. And today I want us to look about how can we take our relationship with God to the next level. Next level. And Hannah in this account is going to help us do exactly that. So Hannah, we find, I said at the beginning of 1 Samuel, I don't have time to read the story, so I want you to go home. There's a little bit of homework for you guys. You can go home, read this account for yourselves. But really, this account of Hannah, this sets up the whole rest of the timeline of the whole rest of 1 Samuel 2, okay? So if this didn't happen in this account, then we wouldn't be able to learn from Absalom and David and Saul and all these others. It kind of all starts here. And we find Hannah here in a painful and a challenging season in her life. See, Hannah, she's happily married, yet she is yet to have a child of her own that she so desperately is longing for. And to make this matter worse, her husband's second wife, she has got many, many children. And this second wife is not kind of keeping them on the down low, kind of like, being thoughtful about Hannah. No, kind of metaphorically speaking, she's parading all her kids in front of Hannah on a regular basis. And really, in a moment of despair, in a moment of anguish, in the moment of one of the most painful situations she's walking through in her life, we see that Hannah calls out to God. Hannah calls out to God. And what we see through this story is that despite her pain, despite her challenge, despite the jealousy, despite rejection and abandonment, through all of that, what we see is Hannah not running away from God, but Hannah running to God. And we don't see a surface level relationship. We don't see a relationship that looks like Hannah and God are mere acquaintances. We see that Hannah has a relationship with God, which I would say is next level. And I want us to take a look and see what we can learn from Hannah and her relationship with God. You see, because last week we looked at all the different relationships in our lives, didn't we? The north, south, east, west. And really as a compass. And I want to say that we have got to work on those relationships. We've got to work on our north, our south, our east and west relationships. But if I'm really honest, what I want to say that is if we don't get our relationship with God right, then we are really going to struggle to do any other relationship. Really, God has got to sit slap bang in the middle of our compass. And when we get that right, everything else flows. Our marriages, our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our team, our leaders, each other. God at the center of our compass helps calibrate everything else in our lives. So church, I want us to go on a little journey this morning looking at how can we take our relationship with God to the next level. Everyone say next level. Okay, so a few things that we can see through Hannah. And really, what does it require of us? What's it going to take for us to go from where we are now Every person in this room, wherever you are, whether you've not even entered into a relationship with God, maybe you've been on the journey for a few years, maybe you're a seasoned person, you're like, I've been walking with God for 50, 60 years. That's great. But there is never an end to knowing God. There is never an end to his love or experiencing who he is. So every one of us today could go to the next level. So a few things here that we can learn from Hannah. What does it take? The first thing is this, is priority and persistence. Now, I don't know about you, but I've discovered that kids have a really good way of being persistent, don't they? Like, especially like younger kids. It's like this built in from a young age. They just can be persistent, and eventually they can wear the parents out. I've just finished half term, so, it's been in full flow. But they're good. And what I've actually learned and what I read about is that actually this is actually inbuilt in kids, in us, from young babies, to have persistence. And actually the persistence is what allows us to grow and to develop and mature. We've got to learn things like being able to, eat. And we even have to learn, our bodies have to learn how to do that. We have to learn how to sit up, to walk, to talk. And without persistence, we wouldn't do any of that, which would be really bizarre, wouldn't it? If we were just sat there, no, not going to bother. But as kids, that we have this persistence that unfortunately as adults, we seem to lose. We seem to lose the art of persistence. But I want to say that Hannah was a woman of persistence. Let me read you here from 1 Samuel 1, verse 6 to 11. This is the Message translation because all of this is going to be the Message translation because I just love how I put it. It says here, but her rival wife taunted her cruelly, rubbing it in and never letting her forget that God had not given her children. This went on year after year. Every time she went to the sanctuary of God, she could expect to be taunted. Hannah was reduced to tears and had no appetite. Her husband Elkanah said, "Oh, Hannah, why are you crying? Why aren't you eating? And why are you so upset? Am I not of more worth to you than 10 sons?" So Hannah ate, then she pulled herself together, slipped away quietly, and entered the sanctuary. Wow, what a woman. I wonder how many of us would just not have bothered, or that the minute it kind of got hard would have just been like, I'm out of here, I'm going home. But not Hannah. See, Hannah, she loved God. In fact, Hannah, a few things about Hannah. Hannah's the only Old Testament woman who is said to go to the Lord's house. Hannah spoke God's name, Yahweh, more than any other woman in the Old Testament. And Hannah is the only woman of the Old Testament who's known to give a vow to the Lord, which we'll look at later. You see, being with God was Hannah's top priority. Despite all her many excuses that she could have had, she pushed through them all. Even, when she didn't feel like it, when the jealousy, the disappointment, the judgment that she would have felt every time she went up to the sanctuary, all of that, despite all of that, she pushed through it. She pushed through them. She made being with God, being in his house, her top priority, letting nothing get in her way. I wonder, so often we allow our circumstances, our emotions to stop us from being with God. We kind of can view our time with him as like this optional extra that we have to kind of stuff in our diaries, as and when we can and as and when we can fit. Or for some of us, we may even view being with God and spending time with God as a luxury. We justify our ability to be in the house of God, and we kind of justify all our excuses. And we say things like, I will come to church when ... When the kids are bigger. When work gets a little bit easier, when I've finished my exams, when I've just finished working on my house, when we've been on holiday, then we'll get, when we'll be in the house of God. When all our ducks are lined up, then we will be in the house of God. Newsflash, it's never going to happen. The devil is not going to make it that easy for you just to waltz into church every single Sunday morning. No, because on a Sunday morning, the kids are going to have issues, your tab's not going to work. There's going to be traffic. There's going to be marathons, and you've got to cut through different things. It's not going to be that easy. But we have to be like Hannah, who made a decision that no matter what is going on, no matter what I'm feeling, what emotions, what things that I want, makes me want to run away from the house of God, that I'm going to make a decision that come what may, I'm going to be with God and I'm going to be in the house of God. Top priority. She dragged herself over the sanctuary threshold, knowing that she was going to be taunted, knowing that the pain was going to be right there in her face. But spirit over body and mind, she dragged herself. And I wonder if there's some people here today, and that's what you've done. And I want to say that God sees you. That God sees you, and that he will bless you in this season as you're doing that. But her ability to turn to God in a moment of crisis came from a lifetime of moments of being with him. And I think too often we want the depth and the fruit without the effort and the work. If we want our relationship with God to be to go to a next level, then we have to make it a priority and we have to be persistent. You see, Hannah and Wayne, in our moment of crisis of being homeless, that wasn't just a kind of like a one-off ask. This came off the back of many, many years of our friendships having relationship equity in the bank. And so to take our relationship with God to the next level, it's going to require priority and persistence. We have to be intentional. We have to say that, God, you're my priority, that you go first in my diary, and everything else has to work itself out. Despite how I feel, I'm going to push through every emotion, every bit of pain, every challenge, just to be in his presence, be in his house. The promise that God says is that when we seek him in Jeremiah 29, that we will find him. I want to say that God is waiting for you, that God is available for every single one of us as we push and make him a priority. The next thing is this: if we're going to take a relationship with God to the next level, is that we have to be real and raw. 1 Samuel 1 verse 10, it says, Hannah, in her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. Now, this was not kind of a few kind of tears down her cheek kind of moment. This is like ugly cry, this is like ugly cry. In fact, to the point where someone accuses her of being drunk, okay? In verse 15, she's saying, "Not so, my Lord," Hannah replied. "I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant as a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief." Wow. This passage here gives us a glimpse into the window into the closeness and the intimacy that Hannah had with God. You see, Hannah is honest with her feelings, with her disappointments, with her desires. She is holding nothing back. There's nothing that she is holding back. This is like true, authentic relationship going on right here. There's no mask. There's no Sunday game face. There's no denying it. There's no hiding it. There's no her trying to cope with it. This is pure, unfiltered vulnerability. Hannah is being real and raw with God. And some of you might be thinking, can we really be that honest with God? Can we really kind of just say it how it is? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. A few things about this. He desires relationship with you. Guys, you are the pinnacle of his creation. It's like me kind of, carrying my kids and, carrying them and giving birth to them and then being like, I don't want a relationship with you. I just wanted to create you. Like, that would be bizarre. God has created us for relationship with him. So he wants to be in relationship with you. He wants to know the fears. He wants to know the dreams and the desires. He wants to know it all. Psalm 139 verse 2 says this: "You know when I sit and when I rise. You know, you perceive my thoughts from afar." The book says he already knows your thoughts before you even think them. So you may as well just say it. It's kind of like a little child, when they play hide and seek and they're like, I'm hiding. And you're like, I can clearly see you. I can see that you're behind the sofa because you're not quite got the. It's a bit like that. We're kind of like, we're trying to hide our emotions, hide our disappointments, hide our anger, hide how we feel. And God's like, I can see you. It's okay. So we may as well just say it to him. We may as well tell him. Jesus models it. Jesus models the real and raw. Just take a look and read about when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, just before he was going to the cross. And it says he was saying, Father, do I have to do this? Do I really have to go through with this? He's sweating blood. Jesus models that we can be real and we can be raw. And it says in Romans 5, verse 8, but God demonstrated his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Even when we were still sinners, he still loved us then. He died for you then at your worst, and he still loves you. So guys, we can be real and we can be raw. We can be honest. We can be open and vulnerable with God. He says, come to me. Bring it all. The good, the bad, everything in between. Just come and be with me. I think one of the things that keeps us from kind of bringing stuff to God is that word called shame. Shame would say, keep it in the dark. Don't let God know. You don't want him to see this part of you, do you? We all know that in the dark, things grow. See, the reason Hannah had such a strong relationship with God is because she brought everything into the light. She's there in the sanctuary saying, God, this isn't fair. God, this is painful. God, this hurts. God, this is challenging. God, when are you going to show up in my life? God, she's just laying it all there for God to see so God can intervene. And I want to say the depth of your relationship with God is determined by the level of vulnerability you're willing to go. If we want to take our relationship with God to the next level, we have to be real and we have to be raw. The next thing is that it's going to require surrender and trust. Here's the vow that I was talking about that Hannah makes. She says, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be on his head. Like, this is craziness. Like, she is willing to give back to God the very thing that she's asking God for God to give to her. Like, she trusts him. Total abandonment, total surrender to God. And any deep relationship requires surrender and it requires trust. Just think about a marriage. Two people coming together, they have to lay down their agenda, lay down their wants, lay down their desires and say, we surrender this all. And it's not just on the wedding day. That is a daily choice. Come on, those who are married, it's just not a one-off. Every day you have to say, I surrender. I trust you. Every single day is a choice that we have to make. And, if we want our relationship with God to be strong and deep, then we have to lay down our desires, lay down the way we think life should be, lay down our dreams, lay down control. In Isaiah, it says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. We have to trust God that his plans go way beyond ours, that his timing is way more perfect than ours. And we have to do what it says in Proverbs 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all our heart. Lean not on our own understanding. Lean not on what we can see, but say, God, I trust you. God, I give you everything. See, I think Hannah's depth of relationship came because she was a woman who knew how to surrender and to trust. A simple surrender, but for her it's the greatest of sacrifices. And I think when we see this where Hannah gives up her son, we've already seen this take place where Abraham and Isaac in that scenario. And really this is another one of those scenarios that's foreshadowing what Jesus did, giving up his son for us. But I want to say that we've got to be people who know how to surrender. And I think there's certain areas of our lives where we're like, yeah, God, I surrender this. I trust you with that. It's like, God, take this, I surrender it. If I'm being honest, sometimes like, yeah, God, I surrender my job. I surrender the ministry. Just take it. Take it. My husband, I surrender him to you. Take him. It's always the things that you kind of feel like you can surrender easily. God just gives you right back. And you're like, no, you have it. No. But then there's other areas where you're like, oh, my kids. You want me to surrender and trust you with my kids? Oh, no, I'll take control of them. I'll keep hold of them. It's okay. Even just this week, as I said goodbye to my youngest son, he's off on a football tournament in Amsterdam. And, I thought this is about this fourth time he's done this. And I'm thinking, it'll get easier. But he doesn't. And every time I'm saying, okay, this whole situation, God, is out of my control. And do you know what? All I can do in this situation is say, God, I surrender him to you. I entrust you with him to bring him back to me safe and everything's gone away and everything's good. I have to trust you. But there's always things in our lives that we want to just keep control of. And if we want our relationship with God to go to the next level, I believe today God's saying, come on, surrender this. Trust me even with that. Even with this, trust me. Surrender. And the last thing is this, that we see from Hannah, is thankfulness and praise. See, we read in Samuel 2, it's entitled Hannah's Song of Praise. Let me just read you what she says. I'm bursting with good news. I'm walking on air. I'm laughing at my rivals. I'm dancing my salvation. Nothing and no one is holy like God. No rock mountain like our God. This blows my mind because Hannah has just surrendered and sacrificed her son, the very thing that she'd asked God for. She's surrendered, and here she is singing a little song to God. I don't know if that would be me, if I'm totally honest. But she's there and she's just overwhelmed with gratitude, overwhelmed with thankfulness. You see, she knows that God's heard her cry. She knows that God's seen her, that God's been willing and able to answer her prayer. And that is what she's choosing to focus on, not the giving up of her son. And I want to say that focus in our relationship with God is key. Not looking on the lack, not focusing on what we don't have, not focusing on what's not happening, on the unanswered prayer, but focusing on what have you done? What have you said? Who are you already to me? And give him praise in the middle of the lack. Give him praise in the middle of our storm. Give him praise when we've not yet seen that which we're believing for. Wow. She took her relationship to the next level with these things. And the end of the story, Hannah was faithful to her promise, faithful to her vow, and God blessed her. She went on to have more children. She went on to have 3 sons and 2 daughters because God's just good like that. God is good like that. And for every one of us here today, I know that there is a next level waiting for you in God. That God doesn't want to have surface level. He doesn't want to have acquaintance status with you. He wants to have a deep, a strong, a close, and intimate relationship with every single one of us here today. But what it's going to take is some of these things that Hannah shows. It's going to take that we make God our priority, that we persist, that we push through despite every situation, every feeling, every emotion. We push through. It's going to take us to be real and raw. Say, God, this is me. This is what I'm going through. This is how I feel about this and that. God, this is where I'm at. It's going to take us to be people who surrender and trust. Even the things that we want to keep hold of. We want control of ourselves. And then it's going to take us people to say, I'm just going to praise you. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to focus on who you are. So why don't we stand to our feet this morning? And I want us together, I guess really we're at the beginning of this whole series on relationships. But I want us to get, first and foremost, our relationship with God correct. Or not even correct, it is a journey, but I want us to make it the priority, because everything else flows from that, from our relationship with God. So why don't you just close your eyes, and maybe God's been speaking to you this morning. And there's just different areas, and you're saying, yeah, I know I want to go to the next level. Maybe for some of you, you have been held God at arm's distance. That this is just, you'll be in his presence for a little bit on a Sunday, but then kind of leave him almost here in this building and forget about him for the rest of the week. And you're saying, do you know what? Today I want to make a statement. I want to make a decision today that I'm going to the next level with my relationship with God. And I think for every one of us, there's probably not one person here who's not saying, I'm quite happy they're here. Because there's always more to God. There's always more to discover. So just let God speak to you for a few moments as the band just kind of play. I don't want us to sing just yet. But come on, what's God speaking to you about? How can you go to the next level in him? And maybe when you're ready and you're saying, yeah, okay, I'm going to commit today to going to the next level with God. Maybe I've got to do some of these things this week. Then why don't you just raise your hand and say, yeah, that's me. I'm going to commit to go to the next level with God this week. I'm going to make him a priority. I'm going to take the next step of vulnerability. I'm going to take off my Sunday mask. I'm going to entrust him with a little bit more. Maybe he's asking you to surrender some things. You're saying, yeah, I want to go to a next level with God. Then why don't you raise your hands? I'm going to pray for you across this place.
Thank you for listening to this Audacious podcast. For any more information, visit us online, audaciouschurch.com. We'd love for you to join us at one of our campuses, Manchester, Chester, or online, every Sunday, 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.